What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Entrepreneurs Podcast. My next guest is on a mission to scale impact-driven entrepreneurs who are feeling stuck reaching the next level by improving the systems that their businesses run on. He offers consulting and advice on implementing systems and increasing your productivity, and you can even schedule a free 15-minute discovery call with him over at jerrykirk.net. So welcome to the show, Gerry Kirk.
Thanks, Corey. Happy to be here.
Yeah, man, I'm super stoked to have you on. And again, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to hopefully share some insight and wisdom with our listeners here. I got to ask you, I was doing a little bit of research, trying to get, prepared for the interview. And I noticed you made a post on your Facebook recently that you've done something for the first time in your life, which is bench pressing more than your body weight. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I'm a CrossFit nut, loud and proud about that, and I've been doing that now for about 2.5 years. In that time, I thought, bit of a side tangent here. I've been the same weight since grade 10 up until I was doing CrossFit. If you can believe it. Like I tried gaining weight. I was a varsity track, a sprinter, and you need to bulk up and get muscle for that. And I always had a hard time. And then started doing CrossFit, changed into a paleo diet, and lo and behold, I've gained like 20 pounds, and most of that in muscle. So just getting stronger every day, and it's pretty cool feeling to bench more than my weight, and just keep moving forwards on that.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And actually, I share a similar story. Like since high school, I have not changed. My body weight has not changed at all. I mean, it doesn't matter what I eat. I cannot seem to gain weight.
And the women all hate us.
Yeah. How much exactly? I know. I always say I'm fortunate. I know that I'm fortunate, but it is the case. Everybody wants what they don't have, right? We want to gain weight. People want to lose weight. That's just the way.
Totally.
But if I can't bench my own weight. If I could, I'd be happy about it too.
Well, I mean, it didn't start there, and for me, one of the things about CrossFit, it's a great lesson I think for all of us, right? Is it's all about consistency.
Yeah.
I was reading a book recently, Hal Elrod, who's the famous author of The Miracle Morning. Well, he wrote another book. It's kind of like he calls it like the prequel to The Miracle Morning, called The Miracle Equation. And in that book, he was he wanted to double his income in his sales job, and which was like a crazy amount. Like he was already doing well. No one had, or very few had ever done this certain sales level in this business. And so he was looking for, how can I do it? And so he reached out and talked to people in his company who had done it, right? The few that had reached this amazing level. And what he found was they all had their different approaches, right? None of them were consistent in terms of, what they did. But the one thing that was the same across all of them was consistency, right? That they put in the work, the effort every day, and focused on the things that were going to make the difference for them. And so I think for me, like with the CrossFit in particular, I go to the gym 5 days a week, and, I'm putting in that time. So, I can't look to any one moment where there's this massive change, but just, little by little, improving technique, gaining confidence, improving health, all of those things really add up. And I think the same goes for our businesses, right? So often we lose focus. There's so many shiny objects, right? Or there's, urgent matters that come our way. And so the things that could really make a difference kind of get hidden or sucked away. We don't have the time for them. I talk to entrepreneurs all the time in those situations. But really what I found in my own business especially is it comes down to doing the things that are going to make the difference on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Consistency is the key to all success. I mean, if you stop, you've failed, right? So as soon as you stop, you fail. You solidify the fact that you're not going to get to any place further or succeed. And I love too that you mentioned, it's a good analogy, really, like health and the business. I mean, with your health, with body, going to the gym every day, that you're consistently taking actions to get to a desired goal, But like you said, there was really no one particular moment where it was like, oh man, all of a sudden, like I'm extremely stronger than I was yesterday. Like
Right. Yeah.
no, it's consistent growth, consistent building, and eventually you get to a point where you do you see sort of that goal manifest itself, and for you it was it was benching your weight. So I love that, and congratulations. But
Thanks.
yeah, anyway, so let's go ahead and jump into it. I mean, as an entrepreneur, I want to talk to you about your story and sort of how you got started. And is this something that you've been doing forever? Or is this a recent development? Tell us a little bit about your backstory there.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's been, I think, a few keystone moments in my journey. So, I mean, I went to school and did the typical right things to get a decent job. And I went to a really good school, University of Waterloo. It's fairly well known for its math and computer sciences. So I was surrounded by a lot of smart Asians who were much smarter than me. But kind of took the degree that I thought would get me a decent job. And so I got into computer science, and I was working in a couple of different companies. And but what was interesting was I found 3 years in, I was really disillusioned. I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. I felt like um, it's just IT was just all about just making money, for companies, and then that I wanted more. And so I was really struggling with that, and I ended up volunteering for 3 years in Bangladesh. And it was in a IT capacity. I was working with a non-government organization there, doing development work, and kind of really caught the fire again. Like, wow, technology can make a real difference in the world. Helping farmers grow their crops, and dealing with just all kinds of situations there. And so kind of came back renewed, and then after my job I had where I came back, I was working again in a startup. It was a company we were trying to help churches and organizations, again, leverage technology to make an impact. And that startup didn't really take off, but it learned a lot through that. And then kind of stumbled into becoming a freelancer and a coach. So I started working with some very small virtual companies, kind of doing software development, and discovered this thing called Agile, which is pretty popular in the software development space as a way to do work. And I thought, wow, this is awesome. It aligns with my values. It just makes a lot of sense. Creates a lot of structure for success. And so I ended up becoming an Agile coach. Wow, I guess about 16 years ago. And ever since, I've been focusing on helping companies, organizations, do a lot of work also with individuals, really just helping them get clear, right? Helping them get clear on what it is they really want to do, and to get into that flow state, right? So we can achieve a lot more, because there's just so much noise and distraction out there. And so what I really gain satisfaction is helping them, be able to see things clearly so that they can make informed choices, kind of like a Google Maps, if you will, for your work, where you can see the different options, the different destinations. You got the real-time traffic signals coming your way, and you got the sort of this visual. That's a lot of what I do, is kind of put in a Google Maps style navigation system for work.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. And I'm the same way, where like visually it would help me a lot to be able to see sort of the different pieces of the business and how everything, moves. So we should have a conversation after this about, about how I can do that. But actually, speaking about that, I agree that clarity is super important. And especially for, anybody getting started in the entrepreneurial world, they have to be clear on what it is they're trying to do. So maybe if you could take us into one of those meetings that you have with your clients, like what questions do you ask them to help them find that clarity? What's some advice maybe you could give to our listeners about how they can figure out, what they're trying to do, find some clarity in that?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it depends where you are in the process. If you're just really getting started, then I think the the first thing you have to really think about is like, who do you want to serve, right? I think a lot of businesses, or particularly entrepreneurs, when they're getting started, struggle because they're trying to be everything to everyone, right? They're just chasing the dollar, and that's no way to stand out. Um, a friend of mine has a great saying. It's better to be a big fish in a small pond, right, than a small fish in a big pond, right? So really get clear on who it is you want to serve, and that you're going to be excited and passionate to serve, right? That you're going to bring out your best, and then figure out, what are the problems that they have, right? Get to understand their situation, and then from that, figure out, which ones can you solve, and what's the potential profit in that. So those are some things, particularly for new entrepreneurs, I would suggest focusing on. For me, I mean, I'm generally working more with established companies.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're feeling more like the growth pains. So they may have gotten as far as they have through a lot of grit, right? Working hard, just making stuff happen. But as they bring on new programs and new team members, I was working with a startup down in Australia, just virtually. And, they're growing like crazy. They just opened up an office in New York now, and just, a lot of great things are happening. But when I was working with them, they had, they've been launching a lot of like signature courses with some high profile entrepreneurs, and that was going well with these big launches. And then they wanted to like add on like an evergreen model to it.
Mm.
So after the big launch, continue to sell them, but in kind of an evergreen approach, constant, like an ongoing launch, if you will. And they were really struggling with this, because now they had like people who were getting pulled into the different, work streams, and a lot of contractors involved, and a lot of dependencies on the work, because you've got people writing copy, you've got, video people, all these people trying to do stuff, and all these competing demands, and it's just becoming a huge mess. And so, what I start to do is understand the questions that I ask in that kind of environment is, really, what are the steps to our process, right? What is it we're trying to do? Who's involved? Get clarity around, definition of done. So when we're trying to do things, how do we know that we're done, right? And so, creating kind of embedding best practices into every step, so that we're not carrying that in our heads, right? Mm. And we're kind of spreading that knowledge across the people doing the work, because ultimately, if you're in a team, the way that the teams go fast is when they don't have to rely on other people so much, those dependencies. And so when we can push down decision making and clarity to the people doing the work, and not have to check in with people or get approval for this or that, things just flow a whole lot faster, especially when you're dealing with like time zones and, people in different parts of the world, right? You got to send an email and hear from someone, and then they're like, 12 hours away and in their bed, then you got to wait till the next day. I mean, stuff like that just really becomes a bottleneck.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, that's awesome advice too. And it makes a lot of sense. It sounds like there's, a lot of systems that go into play into finding that clarity. And depending on, what project it is you're looking at, there's certain ways you can attack that. And it sounds like to me, in a way, it's almost like you're reverse engineering everything. It's always starting like with what's the goal, what is it we're trying to do, the result we're looking for, and then pulling it back from there to find, okay, what steps should we take? Where should we go from here? If this happens, what do we do? And I love too that you brought up the team aspect, because a lot of being an entrepreneur is having to build a team and find people that you can work with. Because doing everything solo, as I'm sure you know, and I know personally, it just does not work, and it takes way too long. So learning how to find people that you can work with, and or find people that are good at the things that you don't know how to do, building that team is super important. And then having the clarity amongst everybody so that the work gets done properly makes a lot of sense. I'm interested in sort of your thoughts on like the internet and social media, because you just mentioned that you're working virtually with this company in Australia. Was this a connection that you had, or was this something like, I guess the question I'm asking is the value of social media in business today. Obviously it connects us, you and I are in different countries. Yeah, here we are having a conversation. We found
Exactly.
each other in a Facebook group. I guess just give us your thoughts on the current space, technology, social media, and as it relates to business.
Yeah, no, it's all great questions. Especially, I think like with any tool, right? There's it's a double-edged sword. Um, it can be, really easy to get distracted by social media,
Mhm.
right? And one of the things that I really one thing that I really encourage people to do is like to shut off notifications and all that kind of stuff. Like when you really want to get down to work, you just got to remove distractions. And so, it's easy to start flipping through your feed and looking at stuff. But for me, social media is primarily for business. I don't use it a lot for personal stuff. Um, I think I mean, like for me, like LinkedIn is really valuable because a lot of my potential customers are there. I can interact directly with like CEOs, right? I mean, that's amazing
Yeah.
that, I can make those direct connections. Whereas, you try to like, go through the chain on it through a phone call or an email, it's not generally going to go right to that person, right? Um, so I think it's a great opportunity to connect with people. And then I would say as well, um, no matter what you're doing as an entrepreneur, you need to be publishing content. Like you absolutely have to be. And I'm saying that to myself as well because like and it was amazing. You've launched your podcast. I've talked about doing a podcast for 2-3 months now, and I still haven't gotten there. But I know that I've heard so many stories about and like Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels talks about it. Like you publish for a year on a consistent basis, it'll change your life because you find your voice first of all, right? You then start to attract um, people that are interested in what you're doing, and often, they become your customers. And not only that, they help you understand what they need, right? So it's not like you have to come up with all these amazing ideas. You just have to listen. And so, yeah, I think social media can be an amazing thing. We just have to be careful with how we use it. Like I said, I use it mainly for business, cut off the distractions, and become more of a content creator than a consumer.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really good advice. And I love the idea of publishing every day. Um, I recently spoke with another guest on the podcast who mentioned she just started a challenge. It was given to her by her mentor, which she didn't mention who it was, but yeah, she had to go live on Facebook every day for 30 days, right? And it's just like you said, it's to develop your own voice, to figure out sort of your message, and then to just get yourself out there and get comfortable being on camera. I think one of the hardest things for me was the fear of like what I would look like and how I would sound, and just the common fears that we all have, right? You
Sure,
don't
yeah.
hear ourselves on video or hearing ourselves on audio. I
Yeah.
mean, are you feeling that? Did you have that fear as well, or?
Yeah, I mean, that the publishing area is definitely one that I've not been strong in. And so it's funny you mentioned the Facebook Live challenge. I actually just restarted doing Facebook Lives yesterday. So I've set a challenge for myself to get out and do that more. And I guess being a systems guy, I love just sort of being in the background, right? Being that architect, being the one to kind of create the conditions for success. I don't necessarily feel like I want to be out in front talking about things, but you know, um, I think what keeps me going, what gives me energy is every time I hear back from someone, how this helped them this way or that way, or frankly, just creating opportunities and possibilities. I was connecting with someone recently, and just even commenting on their stuff and sharing back and forth led to a great conversation and the possibility to help each other. So yeah, I mean, everyone will tell you like, who's amazing now online that they sucked in the beginning, right? Everyone sucks. you
Right.
know, Stephen Larson, you'll have a lot of respect for in the ClickFunnels world. He said it took him about, maybe something for you to keep in mind. It took him, I think, about 40 podcasts before he started getting better, and then about 60 or 70 before he really found his message.
Wow.
So
Okay.
going back to, the CrossFit thing, it's like just putting in that time, being consistent. I super sucked at the beginning of CrossFit. I was like, I shouldn't even be here. Everything hurt, everything was confusing. But now, like, I'm in the zone where I love going to the gym, and I'm pretty good at a bunch of things. Still got lots to learn, but so yeah, just get out there and um, say the same thing to myself. Just gotta get out there and be consistent and hone that voice.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, you just said something that reminded me of something I like to do every once in a while whenever I'm feeling that, that I guess that feeling of I'm not good enough, right? If you go to YouTube and you find any of your favorite YouTube stars or whatever, not everybody is going to have this, but just go back to that very first video that was ever published. Like that's
Oh, they're so bad. That's a great idea. Actually, I like that one.
yeah, it's a good practice. It's a good little pat on the back.
Yeah, we've all been there. Yeah, we've all
So,
been there. So you don't have to feel alone whatsoever. Just got
exactly. Awesome. Well, look, let me switch it up a little bit here, Gerry. I want to ask you about your thoughts on like the whole work-life balance thing. Now,
Mhm.
some people say, "Oh, there's no such thing. I love what I do all the time," and some people say, like, well, whatever. I want to know, what are your thoughts on work-life balance? How do you balance the business with your life, with CrossFit? You said you have a family. How do you make it all work?
Yeah, obviously a very pertinent question in today's world, right? Where there's just so many things going on. To me, it really comes down to first, again, getting clear on what's important to you, right? So, there are many aspects of our lives that need attention. Whether it's money or relationships or health. I think you got to get clear on what's your big number one, and then making sure that all the things in your life are getting the right amount of attention. So for me, when I do my planning, whether it's on a weekly basis or a monthly basis or quarterly basis, I check in on what matters to me right now, and then I start to structure my time so that those things are happening, right? So at different points in my life, it might be about building my business and generating income, and so some other things are going to get less attention, but everything gets some attention, and I have a system that I use and that I teach, right? A very visual type of management system where you kind of see clearly what's happening. So, for example, like a lot of times, um, like I said, we can get caught up in a lot of urgent stuff, and the things that do matter to us in our work-life balance aren't getting that attention. So maybe it's a project that we've always maybe it's a podcast, right? And we always wanted to start and never get around to because we're constantly just spending hours on email or something, or or we're feeling like we're not fitting in that time with our kids. So it's important to have systems that give us the feedback. So it's one thing to set the goals and intentions, but you have to have a way of seeing that clearly, like what is actually happening. So I think life is a lot more about, discovery, to figure out what is going to work, and then getting constant, having constant feedback loops to know what's really happening. So as my days and weeks progress, I actually look at the stuff in my done column, right, or my completed part of my work system, because in there is the seeds of insight. I can see what did I accomplish, what didn't I accomplish, when did I accomplish those things, as sort of what was satisfying in what I did, what wasn't satisfying. I ask a lot of questions around the things I have completed in order to make that next experiment going forward.
I really like how you mentioned actually writing down the feedback, or at least recording sort of that feedback loop so you can see what's actually happening. Because it's one thing to have, like you say, a goal and just everything mapped out. But if you're working on something that isn't actually providing the results, then maybe you're spinning your wheels. So I think it's a great idea to, like you say, how do I feel about this? Like, what result did it provide today? And then, keeping that record of, it's almost like a daily journal, if you will, based on whatever result it is you're trying to get. But yeah, that's interesting. And also it sounds like, as you said, you're a systems guy, and it sounds like you have a lot of systems that help you stay organized, but it also sounds like flexibility is a big part of that too. Like you said,
Oh
know
yeah.
which project to focus on, and allowing that to change as your life changes.
Absolutely. I mean, life is constantly fluid, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's new challenges that come our way, or new opportunities, or new insights. So yeah, it's really important to have a system that allows us to adapt, and make those course corrections. Um, so much, and that's why I'm a big fan of taking small incremental steps, like creating small experiments, particularly for those who are maybe struggling or fearful, to do and start a side hustle, or launch a podcast or whatever. A lot of times it's how can we create small safe experiments to just learn from that, like just treat it as a learning opportunity. So for example, that example of the 30-day Facebook Live challenge, well, it's not going to last forever, it's a month.
Hmm.
Let's just see what happens. You've got this goal of I want to find my voice, I want to attract people to what I'm doing, set myself up a 30-day experiment, and you know um, learn from that, evaluate from that as you move along.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, small micro experiments, like you say, that aren't going to, it's not like, what's the worst that could happen from a 30-day, going live for 30 days, just don't get on there and start spreading hate speech, I guess, and you should be okay.
Right, yeah, exactly. You may need a bigger data plan, but
Yeah, right, no doubt. Well, Gerry, other than like CrossFit, what's some things that you do for fun?
what do I do for fun? Having three kids, 14, 12, and 12. A lot of my life kind of revolves around them, for sure. They're both into like music, and my son's into sports, so spending a lot of time with them. I love to get out and bike and things, and actually, over the last few months, I'm having a lot of fun teaching them entrepreneurship. So now every morning, um, before I get into my stuff, I spend like half an hour, and we go through some of it. Sometimes it's mindset things. I'm helping them launch businesses this summer, helping them to start publishing online. So they're at an age where they're interested in this kind of stuff, and I love it when my world kind of overlaps with theirs, and we can kind of do things that we both enjoy doing. So yeah, that's some of the stuff I'm into.
That's awesome, man. I love to hear that. You've got your kids and stuff, and figuring this stuff out. You're able to teach them. That must be an awesome feeling, knowing that you can share that with them, and also you're setting them up for better success in the future. If they kind of get this mindset at an early age.
Sure, that's right. I'll retire early and they can look after me.
Right. Exactly. Well, okay. My last question for you. This is something you're probably already doing on a daily basis since you're teaching your kids. But looking back on your journey from where you are today, what is some advice that you would give yourself?
Hmm. I think one thing I would give myself is to make sure you enjoy the journey. To have fun at every step. Life is a gift, and so yeah, I would choose to have more fun on the way. I work hard and I hustle hard, and sometimes I kind of lose sight of the joy in each moment, and that's what kids are amazing at doing, is being in the moment and helping you see the joy. Whether it's just seeing a butterfly outside, or someone making a funny farting sound, or just the little things that they can bring out and have so much fun and laughter with. So yeah, definitely enjoy the journey.
That's great advice, man. And I totally agree. Yeah, just find happiness everywhere you can. Look for it a little bit more, right? Uh,
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Gerry, I really appreciate your time today, man. I know you had some other things going on, so thank you for joining us today. And let the people know how they can find you if they want to get in touch with you, figure out how they can increase their productivity. Where are you at these days?
Absolutely. Well, my central location is my website, jerrykirk.net, and very soon I'm probably by the time this podcast comes out, I'll have a program set up, a new course that I'm doing. So you can find out more information about it there. And of course, I'm pretty active on Facebook and LinkedIn, so you can definitely find me there. I got links on my website to my social profiles. So we love to connect.
Very cool, man. Well, I will link all of that stuff up in the show notes for sure. Gerry, thank you again. I really appreciate it. And have a good rest of your day, my friend. We will see you on the next one.
Awesome. Thanks, Corey. Pleasure to be here.